Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Let's do this. Bonus points for any of you in the comment section who can tell me what this is from and whose it is. Liege points, we'll call them. I don't know, whatever. Two things of note. Obviously, the background has been significantly changed. My children finally reclaimed the Pokemon stuffed animals, so just kidding about the big change. Second thing of note, I'm still behind on the 3,000 thank you video, so I'll maybe have that out sometime this weekend. But anyway, that's not why you're here. You've made it this far. If you are a purveyor of the weekly Kickstarter roundup, I thank you so much. If you would be so kind, thumb, like, viewing it is great, sub, whatever. You guys have got me this far. Starting to get some more opportunities, and I would just love to be able to do more, and that's all thanks to you guys. So that's it. Hopefully Mechanical Beast review this weekend maybe as well. And then we'll just kind of see what else comes up. I did a whole bunch of subsets of videos in terms of a little bit of gameplay discussion. So I'm going to hopefully have a little bit of lined up stuff coming out on a more regular basis. I mean, because, yeah, who doesn't want to see me screw up how to play a game? Right? Deliverance review? Anyway, so, yeah, did that. Came out. Go check it out. Great game. Definitely a different dungeon crawler, different theme, different mechanics. But you know, whether or not it's for you, well, take a look. But, okay, now the preamble's over. Let's do this roundup. Let's do. First up is Festival Guru, a board game capturing the essence of a music festival in a nutshell, where you are trying to watch 6 live acts across 6 rounds, traversing metaphorical fairgrounds or music grounds in order to do so. And there's 6 different genres in which you're trying to watch a band from. You're going to be trekking across through the muddy land with your standee, trying to see all of these factors, interacting with other players and other fans and other bands in that sense, and getting fun points, I believe is what they call them. Standees, tokens, festival grounds, like I just mentioned, in terms of what you're going to be able to interact with and how you're going to be able to score points. Stages, even toilets. Camping sites, and then event cards that are going to be happening, sort of a resource management, point management style thing. And that's essentially what it is. It gives a little bit of videos here. You can see how you're scoring the performances and the actual stands that you're going to be going to around the fairgrounds, swapping tokens, getting event cards, how to play around, and then a little bit of setup right here. It's very indie in that sense. And it is just over 10% of its funding goal, but I wanted to throw a shout out to it in case the music scene is your other hobby on the side. Festival Guru, there you go. Next up is Zaka, the monster battling card game. And now this one is about 20% of its funding goal, just over that, almost a quarter of the way done. And it's a card battling monster mage game. So let's take a look. Got a little bit of the, not really the sprite artwork, but something sort of in between cartoon and sprite. 2 to 6 players, 20 minutes to play. Let's just check out the price point because I'm curious right now. Okay, $21, $35 for the double. Great. So, if you like this game, they're already putting it at the top, and I kind of like that. I like the fact that you're saying, okay, what type of game is this for people? Easy to learn, so it means usually easy to get to the table. Definitely some take that was how I'll interpret that. And there's going to be interaction and strategy that you're going to have to account for as well. Little bit of weapons, monsters, creatures. It is self-described as being a cheeky experience. You have monsters, again, like I said, weapons, plethora of both, and what are you actually doing, though? Okay, so here you go. Straightforward on the page. Get your army of monsters, give them weapons, attack your foes with their abilities, because not only do they have weapon and bonuses that they're going to be getting, they also have their own special abilities, and so then gain more cards only when you defeat others, so you have to be careful on who you're attacking, and just last one standing wins. 72 cards in the game, and then you're also getting, 3 available of the Dark deck. Dark replacement, custom design cards, so that's that upper level, I guess. Add-ons are a little bit of the non-gameplay poster mat, a few stretch goals here for additional cards, and a little bit of the background. So, there you go. Real straightforward. Zaka. Check it out. Next up, we have 2 Minutes to Midnight. I talked about this one last week, and I checked on it when it launched, and it had like a couple $100, and then all of a sudden I checked like 6 or 8 hours later, and boom, it was at like 12,000. So congrats to them. Again, definitely well outside my comfort zone, but it is a Cold War, United States versus the Soviet Union war type game set over, as you can see, a very long period of time, almost 50 years. So, what are you doing? You have obviously your cards that are going to be your incident cards. You have sort of your tokens, a la, it just reminds me of the ones that were in Blitzkrieg, the pseudo war game 2-player that's, you know, really popular right now. And you are enacting that time period between these two powers. Now, it's a self-described game of not only the military might, but also the economics, the politics, and the trade side of the Cold War as well. 120 events that may or may not happen can be in this game as well. So, I mean, it is hiding some depth. It's got a little TARDIS going on, if you know what I mean. Like I said, the chip pull, that's the big bonus of Blitzkrieg, is that has that chip pull, and you can do it, and it's quick, and it's relatively straightforward. And so that is what they're using here to describe low downside. And definitely these two sides are not going to be playing the same. And there's very few scripted, you know, linear forcing you into this event. So you can go and do however you please. And historical accuracy is what they're going for in this game. And so you can fight World War III, but they don't suggest it. So maybe they don't suggest it, but they don't, you know, make it happen either. And, you know, throw your curveballs. Stuff's not going to happen the way you think it should. Technology research trees, a lot of stuff here. So I really suggest you check this out if you're a war gamer, or even if you have war inklings, because this looks like it's definitely a different take, and there's enough video out here that it is going to be something of interest. You know, I hate to say it, I'm probably going to check out the rulebook. I'm not going to talk to you guys about the rulebook because, again, outside my depth, but I'm going to check it out. But for me personally, like, this isn't a solo game, and my wife would not like this. So as much as the interest is there, this probably wouldn't be a good fit for my getting to the table theme, if you will. But I know a lot of you guys do like this sort of thing, and let's check the price point just out of curiosity. $55. Again, I have no idea if that's a good deal or not. No idea whatsoever. But you guys will let me know too. So there you go. 2 minutes to midnight. Doing great. 20,000, 4 times its funding goal almost. Next up, we have Hex 4, another one of those really small, abstract type games. A sixth of its way already in. And let's see what this is. How is this different? 2-player strategy game. Yep. Okay, nope. They tried to do 3 and 4, but they couldn't. You have 15 pieces of your own color. You take turns laying them down, trying to get 4 in a row. Starts off as tic-tac-toe, but at least you have 2 colors on the grid. You may move one of your pieces to cap your opponent. Capping in the sense of apparently just putting it on top of your opponent's. And I'm sure there's some more nuance there, but I don't see it initially. Let's see if they talk about it a little bit more. Okay, they have a deluxe version, standard game, anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. Yeah, so I mean, it's very much like that. It's like Yinish minus the circles. And the problem is I don't see any more rules. You know, because I have to think that there's, you know, okay, well, is there a range in which you can cap them? Do they have to be next to them? Do they have to be, you know, can they just be anywhere on the map? Do they have to have at least 2 in a row, not just 2 on the board? There's just not enough information there. I mean, I think the idea is solid in theory as an abstract lover myself, but again, I want to see a rule book there. I want to see something more detailed. Otherwise, I mean, okay, for the price point, what are we talking here? $28. I mean, it's not bad. Especially with a playmat. I mean, I'm more of a big fan of a playmat here. I don't need 4 color pieces to get the 38, but yeah, show me a rule book, show me the nuance, give me a little bit more detail. Like, since it's an abstract, like, I don't need a gameplay. Like, you can just tell me the rules. Abstract rule books are relatively, like, short anyway, like 2 pages, 3 pages anyway, tops. So anyway, Hex 4, check it out. Okay, so next up we have Scones and ARSENIC. It just hit its funding goal, 1 to 6 players. Short game. I would not have expected that, but it looks like it's almost like the tin-sized game with like the Forbidden Island, that sort of size. I think my game Codex Naturalis is about that size as well, so let's take a look here. What are we actually getting? Oh, you can actually, if you're French speaking out there, or French reading, you can click for it there. So it's a real game with fake cookies in a fake game box made to look like a real cookie box. So be careful if you have kids, I guess. Special Scone, a stretch goal, Kickstarter exclusive. Like I said, 1 to 6 players, 16. I thought that said 16 minutes, and I was going to be like, that's awful specific, right? We timed it out, and the average game turned out to be 16.375 minutes. And anyway, party game. So there you go. First off, bluff, strategy, and luck. So, I mean, that's really who it is appealing to. Now, you can obviously do some statistical analysis, but I mean, as a party game, okay, great. This looks like a little bit of press your luck. I was saying push your luck in the previous outtakes, but you're going to get a little bit of both. Kind of like that phrase as well, push your luck. Another Liegeism. You have the ability to stop, but when you stop, players past you have to continue for 2 more turns. And so you're stopping when you think the only thing is left in the box are poison cookies. The social deduction party-esque game is trying to read what other people's reactions are as you're pulling these cookies out, because some of them are poisoned, and depending on enough poison can take them out of the game. And so you're trying to time it when somebody else is going to be out of the game, or you have the least amount of poison, is what it sounds like. So there you go. You get 1 tray, 3 sugar cubes. Cookies are placed anywhere in the box. You pick a cookie and discreetly look at the poisoned face. You either keep it and put it in your little tray, or you can put it back in the box, but you have to spend a sugar cube. So there you go. If you reach your tolerance before stopping, you die and you're eliminated. And the person who has the most biscuits at the end is alive that still wins. There you go. That's simple, straightforward. 1 copy of the game, available for 48 hours, so well after even I'm looking at it at this point. Is how much money? 28 euros? What does that turn out to be in US? So 34, okay. A little higher than I would have expected. So the interesting thing here, you'll note, is that the $34 pledge, the 28 euro pledge that I'm looking at here, the first 48 hours gets you this extra little game. I'm not going to try and pronounce it. I tried to pronounce it in the outtakes again, and I messed it up so you can see it right down here, or right here. But I initially thought that the shipping was not included, and it was going to be 25 euros for the rest of the world, including like North America. But they actually say the United States and Europe shipping is already included in this 34 or 28 euro pledge. So that's actually a much better deal than I was thinking initially. The problem is, anywhere in Asia, the rest of North America, somehow Norway and Switzerland are kind of getting the short end of the stick here with the extra shipping, and the rest of the world is definitely getting the extra, short end of the stick, because it's basically the price of the whole pledge to get it shipped anywhere in the world. So you'd really have to love it. But that's essentially the game. A few videos down here at the bottom, but that's all you need to know. Straightforward, relatively easy to get to the table. I agree with them. Short game. If you like that sort of thing, check it out. Scones and Arsenic. Next up is King Fridge, the cool card game. It's already about 5 times its funding goal. The other thing is, I realized last time, I did all the video, and then I had to go back and find all these individual Kickstarter pages for the comment section. And so I'm doing it as I go now. So I'm thinking smarter, not harder. Or working smarter, not harder. My kids kind of paraphrase it each time. Anyway, draw and remember to sabotage your allergic friends to fatal fruits in a 2 to 6 player game. So apparently poisoning is on the menu this week for Kickstarter. I don't know. You can't make this stuff up. It comes in waves. It truly comes in waves, folks. More backers, more upgrades, sure. Okay, great. There we go. What are you getting? Fridge cards, special cards, allergy cards, King Fridge card. And how to play. How does it work? So what are you trying to do? You're trying to get lowest score. So I mean, it's kind of like golf, the physical game, but also the card game. You get 4 cards face down in front of you, and you remember them. And I think I remember talking about this a couple weeks ago. It is kind of like golf the game, and you can know 2 of them. You don't know 2 of them. You have to swap them, and you get the option to sort of dump it if you want. And if you get someone dumping with the same number as you own, well, then you can go ahead and get it. You can just go ahead and reach in there and get it. So that is the nuance in that game. And so I'm guessing that there are, again, this is someone's bad fruit. Don't let it sneak in. Good fruit, keep these instead. And allergy cards, special cards that are going to have abilities. Yeah, it's golf. I didn't even realize that before looking at this page. Anyway, so 16 euros. Again, it's about what I'd expect. Double package for 29. Quadruple package for 52. There you go. Stretch goals, let's see. Challenges completed. Upgrades, essentially. Social media, Facebook challenges there as well. And a few other down here as well. So, again, straightforward, to the point. These games are going easy today. And it's already well over its funding goal, so people like what they see. So, King Fridge, the cool card game. They made the pun, so I didn't have to. Check it out. Speaking of things I messed up, Forest of Pangaia. not Pangaea, which is what I was saying last week during the upcoming video, right? I'm like, Forest of Pangaea, 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 Pangaea. And then I realize when I'm editing, I'm like, oh, that's Pangaia. I mean, I'm guaranteed to pronounce something wrong every week, so, I mean, stay tuned just for that. And an enchanting strategy game has sort of this wooden aesthetic vibe. Sort of when I think of the game Photosynthesis with the trees, I mean, this is what I picture in my mind. And obviously other people picture and like the aesthetic as well. Hopefully like the game too, because it's already 3 times its funding goal already. And it's still got a whole nother month to go. So that, again, relatively impressive, because you never know. Again, like last week, right? We saw a whole bunch of decent quality looking stuff that just didn't fund, or was not funding, or was having trouble funding. And now this week you've got a lot more stuff that is, you know, it looks similar, but sometimes those small differences seem to be the bigger difference. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. So Gaia creates trees. You're trying to create more trees, abundance of trees over the grid-based board that you're creating. So what are you actually doing in this? Because you're getting these wooden trees, mythical spirits, and the artwork, and you're trying to basically build the forest, right? So you are a young spirit, as it says. You're growing up and you're trying to get the most territory. Are you going to mingle with other trees, or are you going to just try and conquer on your own? For elements, they're going to decide how you're going to be able to interact with the board. So you're going to be growing trees across this barren continent. You have to do rituals that gives you life energy. Most rituals, most life energy wins the game. 3 phases of the game, and I really like pages like this that just walk you through it without, you know, being overly burdened, and that just makes a slight difference in an otherwise crowded market. So you look at your seeds, evaluate if they're able to grow into new trees, then you can move your spirit to different parts of the map, get more seeds down, and your turn spending those resources to grow your trees to a higher level. Expansion and growth. You can expand your forest. You must plant a seed on the land and let it grow. Gets 2 other treetops, then it can spread seeds nearby. Again, really straightforward. With your spirit of the forest, though, you can go further, farther, faster. They talk a little bit more about the seeds here, collecting the resources by expanding your forest. Grow rituals on how you have to connect things and sort of pattern things in order to grow the quickest. And they put the whole rulebook out here as well. You get a little bit of an overview. I mean, this is a beautiful looking game. There's a reason I used it in my thumbnail last week, because the art is fantastic and it just looks very, very aesthetically pleasing. $60. I mean, I would hope for less, and 67 for the deluxe. And I mean, for that small of a price point difference, I'd probably go deluxe if it's only $7 difference. You know, and I say that I probably wished it was less, but I kind of knew it was going to be that, because wood is expensive now. I mean, like, building wood is expensive, so I have to think that there's a trickle-down effect here. So I'm not surprised. Okay, you're just upgrading stuff. So far, no game components, but who knows if there will be some. So anyway, I mean, it looks... I know why it's funded. A few social goals right down here at the bottom. A few reviews. A few videos, and a little bit of background on the lore. Again, it's probably the most beautiful game I've seen aesthetically wise in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Shipping's $18 on top of that. Okay, I mean, that's $85 for this game. That's not inexpensive, but if you like it, I mean, I don't think there's anything else out there necessarily like it, especially aesthetically. So what else do we need to know? So again, I wasn't going to do this. I did it anyway. The rulebook is here. It gives you sort of the hexagonal grids with the different land types, with the different seasons on them, the different land spaces on them themselves, achievements, the different level of trees. I mean, again, it's really straightforward. It's a really easy to read rulebook. It tells you exactly how you're going to be setting it up differently in each of the player counts, what the rituals are, how you have to score them and get them connected in that sense, all of the different rituals that you'll be doing, the resources, the phases of the turn that I just mentioned in terms of the growing, the spirits, and the adding the treetops. And then they tell you about the end of the game when all of the rituals have been done. Then you total up who has the most points and you score it, but you make sure that everyone has equal turns. Again, super easy rulebook to read and to go through. So if you're interested in all, check it out. I can see, like I said, why it's funding. I'd be shocked if this didn't reach triple digits easily, and it's still got a month to go. So Forest of Pangaia, check it out. Next up, Cheddar Blitz. Again, like small card-ish games, easy to hit the table. I mean, this one's 2/3 of the way done. So, racing card game. Flip and go. Emoji games. Oh, they called it an emoji game up there. Emojo games is what they're called. So you have challenge cards, you're going to have wild cards, you're going to flip out cards. So what are you actually doing? $15 gets you that, $30 gets you a double, or you can get $30 for a copy of both the other games. So how do you play? You have 5 challenge cards, you're trying to complete all 5. And so they go through what these challenges are. 2 draw piles, all players play at the same time. You choose from any draw pile or discard pile. Discard 1 card from your Blitz row, and place 1 down from your hand to create that row. And flip out causes any player to change their top challenge card for the next one. So you're trying to complete these, but you're trying to mess with other people at the same time. Cheddar, when your Blitz row matches the challenge card. I'm sure there's an explanation behind that. I'm sure maybe they even talk about it. But again, here's the full rules right there. I mean, that's everything right there. Straightforward. I would be shocked if this one did not fund. It is what it is. It's straightforward. I think it's low overhead in terms of getting to the table and low complexity. And I think for the price point, people are going to back it. And it's just a matter of whether or not it can hit its goal. But it's got 36 days to go. So like I said, I'd be surprised if it didn't. But there you go. Cheddar Blitz. Next up is To the Death, a deluxe solitaire card game. Again, not a solo person. They say 1 to 2 players, but they also say solitaire down here. So anyway, well over 10 times its funding goal. Definitely indie with the sprite, 300 cards. What are you getting? Heroes versus enemies, and you can play against a group of heroes as well, depending on if you want to do a 2-player. So endlessly playable, as they call it, with nearly 200 created by backers in a previous campaign, your 8 righteous heroes, your 12 brutish monsters, and your 4 monster kings, and your also 8 cold-hearted heroes as well, and more monsters and more kings, and seafaring, a little bit of everything. So a lot of stuff there. That's cool. And it looks like this is more of the expansion to it as well. Like the previous campaign, more of the base game. So they say $25 here gets you all the original stuff, $30 gets you the new stuff in a fancy box, and $60 gets you everything. And I mean, that's a lot for everything, but this looks like one of those games where if you like it, you really probably like it. So Puzzle Dungeon Explore, what are you doing actually though with this? Because it kind of gives me the Pixel Tactics vibe, only like as a solo game as opposed to a head-to-head tactical strategic game. So you'll choose a champion, fighter, magician, and mender. So I mean, you're basically choosing one of each of the 4 classes. Battle over several rounds, increasingly difficult monsters. Draw cards from your deck to activate the abilities. And you can see that this number activates this ability. So depending on what number it is, depending on which ability you can use of said hero or said heroes, if you will. And then their damage card allows them the abilities as they are damaged and healed. So if they are hit or they're healed, they get special abilities as well. This is kind of cool. I'm going to click Remind Me on this one. I'm not a big fan of the solo stuff, but I could see myself playing this with the kids again. So as monsters are defeated, next monster stacks and it gets another ability. Man, this is cool. This is really cool. Check out update number 1 for full game rules. You know, I don't pay for reviews or previews. Quotes from players that purchased the first edition. Okay, well, I mean, you don't need to pay for things to get people to review it. I mean, there's plenty of people out there like me that will play it for free, and, you know, if you send me a copy. So, anyway, I think it's cool. I think these guys, cool potential. The only question is how random and how randomized and how, you know, balanced it is, because I mean, this is also something where, you know, I could see you could potentially just drawing a bad hand and getting kind of SOL, but it looks like it's a low enough overhead that if that happened, you could just rinse, repeat, shuffle up and play again. So like I said, I'm gonna keep this one saved. I'm gonna go check this one out after this video is done and yeah, see what it looks like. But I heavily recommend checking this out then, because this one I hadn't even heard of, even the original. So check it out, To the Death Deluxe Edition. Next up, from Thematic Games, this is Dinodocus. And I'm a little surprised this one isn't doing better, because I scrolled down on the page a little bit before this and I checked it out, and it's got a really solid gameplay, but I don't know if it's the execution, I don't know if it's the theme, I don't know if it's just people aren't as fan of word games or dino themed. I don't really know. But let's take a look, and you can maybe even tell me in the comment section. The basic gist of this is that you are creating these dinos, and one of them is yours, and you are playing against everyone else at the same time. And so you're going around, and basically what you're doing is you have the starting hand of cards, and you put out these dinos, and you can replace a body part on anybody's dino. It doesn't have to be your own, because you may want to replace one on your own to make your own live longer, or to be able to last through whatever period it's in, because you have to feed them at the end of the round in order to survive, otherwise they go extinct. And depending on how long they survive, and that's how many victory points, and you're extending your timeline, which is their way of scaling things in this game. Or if someone changes yours, you may want to change yours back, or you may want to go change theirs to affect theirs even more. So that is how you're going to be doing it. And they put a nice little, letter system along with it so that you can try and say funny dino names along with it. But these are all based off of real dinosaurs from different periods of time. And that is the basic gist of the game. There's plenty of videos. I'm surprised. There's a full rule book. The art is, good. And so I'm not really sure why it's not funding. So let's take a look here. Again, game for early backers. I mean, maybe that's the problem. The game is $15. $16 for non-early backers. And the funding goal is $7,000. So, it's not like you're not getting the money. There are a couple games that I've looked at here that are just as well funding, but 7,000 is a lot more. So again, I could see this one funding by the end of it, but I could also see it struggling, because sometimes a slow start in a crowded market is difficult. But it's got a Man vs. Meeple, it's got a John Gets Games here, it's got a Game Boy Geek. Again, it's not an indie developer lacking videos that's causing it not to fund. So yeah, there you go. That's the basic gist of it. Scoreboard right there is an add-on, but yeah, it's a good price point. I don't know. You tell me. But that's Dinodocus. If you're interested, check it out. Next up is Alien Pet Shop. Cute and mildly dangerous pets for your alien pet shop. Dice workers in a light engine builder. Okay. You're hitting a lot of keywords there. Let's take a look. Little animation there. 2 to 4 players. Cosmic pet shop. See, that's how my night's going right now with this video. Easy mode, so an experience mode. Okay, great. What are we doing? Gameplay basics. Buy pets, hire workers. Roll and assign them. Help spawn offspring to sell. Okay, that's okay. Workers can engineer new traits for your pets as well, maximize profits. But if they are careless, they can activate the pet's hazardous effects, and you can get problems and eat your workers. So pet traits can be added, get victory points, and sell them and profit. So there you go. Different pet cards that you're going to be seeing. A little bit of Mario reference right there with the Death Vine. Anyway, habitat cards. It's your upgrades as well. $39 for the base game. Unlock stretch goals. $149 for that. Gets you a unique starter pet. Oh, you get to create one. Okay. Sounds good. Other stretch goals here. Some videos down here at the bottom. Rule book as well. Shipping. Okay. So, okay. Where are we at? Almost funded. About 65% of the way. So here we have the rulebook. Again, it's a relatively straightforward rulebook. It's only 8 pages long. I think the last page even maybe talks about the solo mode. Normal or easy mode they talk about here. And you have to decide it sort of at the beginning, which is fine. Similar, but there's simpler rules. And if you look for the easy mode, they actually give you a separate symbol as well that you can kind of locate there. And talks about how you're going to be setting it up. Great. Then the overview, you have 5 rounds in which you're going to be doing this. You buy a pet, hire a worker, or build a habitat, essentially. Well, you're buying it, but either way. Take care of them so they breed, earn rewards, or, sparking traits, shared traits that are going to be more beneficial. And manage them and manage the chaos of the alien pets to get your pet shop the best. So, again, really straightforward. These are packed, but they're easy to read in that sense. So, yeah, there you go. Alien Pet Shop. Check it out. Next up is Elementile. You're using the power of the elements to summon your army and go head-to-head. 582 cards. That's a lot of cards. So I'm guessing the price point is high. They've got a lot of more money than a lot of the other projects I've talked about already, but they also have a 30,000 funding goal, which is also a lot more than a lot of the other projects that I've looked at. So again, this is, it's really cool. What is making this unique? Because they talk about a draft and a constructed format here. And so that's always the tricky part. So 23 unique cards from each of the 6 elements. Okay, great. You can draft for 6 to 10 players. So that's a lot. But now if you draft, I mean, again, how long does drafting take? Is it easy to look for synergy? Is it going to take you an hour to draft and then, 25 minutes to learn it and then, another hour to play? And can you play with 6 people at the same time? I mean, okay, let's see. Tug of War, draft or construct. Yeah, summon. Okay, we did that. 4x4 field of play. Advance your units to reduce the opponent to 0. So it tells you how to play it, abilities, health, movement, armor, cost, all that stuff. They basically say that you can choose to use one of these cards to convert it to be able to play it, and then to spend more elements to summon it in the first place after you've laid it down there. And you're summoning it to that 4x4 grid that I mentioned, and moving and attacking. So you're choosing a unit to activate, move it, and then attack. It reminds me sort of Summoner Wars in that sense. But you're getting a little bit more customization here. Overcharge 1 unused element at the end of your turn. They're wilds that can be used to pay for anything. Unique spells, unique abilities, unique units, and 10 health points is the way to win. So constructed, you build it beforehand. So, okay, pre-constructed decks, combos are in there in the rulebook a little bit, and drafting is more complex, but it works here for 6 to 10 players. I mean, that's choose 1 card from the pack, assembled packs, process repeats itself. So, I mean, they're going for more of the Magic the Gathering there, essentially. $40 for the base game. So, what is the deluxe then? $60. And what gets you more stretch goals? You get the stretch goals in the first one? Yep. It's text. This white on white is not easy to read here. Holographic cards is looking like that's the difference. So, I mean, that's cool, but I'm not sure I'd do it for $20. But, I mean, again, that's cool, actually. That's a cool enamel pin. That's really cool, actually, these top 2. Anyway, but yeah, neoprene mats, additional element cards in case you want more resource cards to be able to use, and just some upgrades if they hit stretch goals. A little bit of the lore, the background. I mean, the art is really good on this. This would be one I would definitely say, though. I mean, this is a crowded market. Especially when you're going up and you're head-to-head with things that are established like Summoner Wars, or even just, you're mimicking the style and the style of play of Magic the Gathering. Like, why am I going to get into something that's new and different when there's already something out there that's established that people can play, that people are more entrenched with? But I mean, clearly there is a market for this either way. So that is Elementile. If you're interested, check it out. Now, next up is First Ascent. And again, another one that I was doing this video last week for the upcoming games when I was talking about this, and I was going, I could easily see this one being like super low level funding and not getting anywhere at all, or just be one of those that, comes out of nowhere and like a climbing theme really appeals to people. And apparently it really appeals to people because they're well overfunded in the first like 24 plus hours, $27,000, and for a $50 game. So, I mean, that's not insignificant by any means. So what are you actually doing? Medium weight, rock climbing themed strategy game. You want to be the most skilled climber as you climb up this metaphorically built mountain on the tabletop. 2 to 5 players, essentially 1 to 2 hours. Now, that I like, again, you heard me say earlier, I like it when they tell me, okay, what am I doing here? Engine building, resource management, route building, set matching, modular board. Again, those are all things that I like. You can see some of the climbers, the asymmetric abilities that they have right here, and sort of their equipment, the things that they can hold down here in the bottom. And then it talks about the hatchet. Then it talks about the board itself, which is made up of these individual hex tiles called pitches, and that's the modularity. So the faces of the mountains that you're going to be climbing in each game are going to be distinctly different. Each one of these has different points and requirements for you to climb it. And so you can see all of these are required, and what you're going to have with the equipment and the, supplies that your climber already has. So after you climb, though, you have to draw a card to see what happens, and you have to choice, manage, and after that, you have to manage whatever's on that card, whether it's manipulating their resources, manipulating the board, or giving stuff to other people, or taking it away. So achieve objectives, based on how you go up, or the route in which you go up, and you get skills as you progress. So you have more availability at the top. And technique. So there you go. I mean, I can see why, again, this is funded. This is something unique. This is something different, especially with a theme. Again, there's a rule book right here. I don't feel like I need to look at it with this one. But it's definitely something that you have not seen out there, but it's just another take on, like I said, that resource management engine building. And so if you're looking for definitely an interesting engine builder, there you go. Yeah, I would say replayability with the modularity and the cards. Again, there's going to be a high amount there. A couple big video reviews here from some bigger channels, and a little bit of stretch goals. So $10 for a game. And what are we talking here? Ooh, overseas. Ouch. European Union. What are we talking for a price point here? Yeah, oh yeah, $49. Duh, you talked about it at the beginning. So $59. Yeah, it's about what I'd expect. Custom print there for 350 bucks. So, there you go. That's first Ascent. If you're interested, check it out. It's doing well. Okay, next up is Peak Oil Profiteer, and this one was actually on the Board Game Geek front page as one of the games they're talking about in the news section. And I was reading the comment section, and they were talking about the phrase peak oil, meaning like you've reached the peak amount that's production, and it's only going down from there. And so they were talking about the use of that, and I guess the previous game is actually just called Peak Oil, so they're trying to use it somewhat thematically, and there was a little bit of discussion that anyway. So you can see what you're doing here is you are doing whatever it takes to keep the oil and the money flowing in your direction, because it is, you know, apparently running out, and there's corruption. And I guess they said in the comment section you start the game with 93% corruption, whatever that means, but you know, that's never a good thing, right? So simultaneous action selection, player interaction, area control, asymmetric upgrades. And you can see a little bit of what it looks like on the table right there. Standalone sequel, like I said, to Peak Oil. You're an oil executive, war-torn nation, lots of oil, but you need help selling it. So how are you going to sell it? The government, the National Liberation Front, and the militia all have to be in the right place in the right time in order for you to be able to profit. This is definitely outside of my wheelhouse as an area control game, so I'm not going to be able to speak probably as in-depth from that side of things. But again, my question is always what makes yours different. And simultaneous action selection is definitely a different theme in area control. So place them face down, called out in order in which they are. For each matching card revealed and their effects are applied, dig up dirt on the leaders, you know, make a profit. Yeah. You need political influence and able to do it, and cash in when it's high, and don't let other people control the stuff that you need to sell it. Make the most money before the corruption totally rules the land, and that's where it says, you know, 93 and gets to 100. So I'm assuming those are rounds then. So what would that be, like 8 rounds then? There you go. Why back this game? Again, yeah, I can see why people like this game, especially as something different in area control. €30 pledge, 67 if you want both games with the stretch goals. And a few stretch goals have already been hit here. So we'll kind of see what else comes about. Solo mode, unique gameplay. Again, I see the quality that this is, but it's definitely not for me. And they've got the rules up already. And I was going to give you a brief synopsis of the rules, but then I opened the rule book, and it's literally 20 pages long. Now, again, it's not super complicated, but there's a lot going on and a lot you need to be aware of. And they give a lot of good examples. So if this is your vibe, if you like area control with a different spin and simultaneous action selection sounds good to you, check out this rulebook. They offer an ability to play it online as well, if you can do that either. But you really need to look at this rulebook, because it's definitely different than a lot of the other things that I've seen, especially with some of these drilling rights and the dies that are on the board in the first place. So I can't do it justice in the time frame here, and you know, even me rereading this whole thing to you would not be a good use of your time. So if you're interested, though, I definitely think you need to read the rulebook. Again, I have no problem seeing why it's, you know, $100 from funding right now, and it's only going to go up from there. So we'll see where it ends up. But that is Peak Oil Profiteer. Next up, another one I talked about last week, Scarface 1920, competitive head-to-head worker placement mafia area control game with some deck building, but also miniatures. So that is part of the price point. That is part of the appeal, I think, because you're hitting on the miniature crowd. And that was my big question last week, was that going to have enough overlap? The miniatures crowd side of things and the deck building worker placement side of things. And apparently people said yes. So what are you actually getting? What does it entail? First 48 hours. By the time you see this video, it's going to be past that. So if you're interested, hopefully you already got in and got the unique miniature and the new cards. And I mean, this is Chicago in the 20s. And you have these different areas with the different workers that you're going to be using to position to go around, and you're going to have to be doing it enough in an enough way that you are not getting the attraction of the feds and Ness, but you are also not letting fellow crime bosses take over your territory. Now, you also get to choose how you want to play it because each of the gangs is asymmetric as well. So each time you play, different factions, different results, different methods to their madness. A little bit of a how to play video there, and then a little bit of, okay, run the streets, pull the strings, how are you going to build up your gang, how are you going to keep the feds off your back, and, you know, are you going to be the king at the end of Prohibition? Rulebook is in progress right there. Again, this is a big rulebook, so I'm not going to go over it. And again, it's a big price point. It's €100. But that's because if you go down here, you see all of the plastic that's going in it for each and every gang. And so that is where the price point is coming in. And again, do you want an area control game that is €100 that combines, you know, elements that we haven't seen before, worker placement and deck building? If you do, I mean, this is definitely the combination of those three we have not seen. But again, that's a big price point, and you have to essentially, I think, love those mechanisms to be able to get the full value out of this. And again, that Venn diagram of combinations of people and miniatures and those three mechanisms, I mean, clearly it's bigger than I thought, but how much bigger is it going to be? So we'll see. They're hitting all of the stretch goals. You see all the Fed cards here, the new cards, the neighbor cards. So there's a lot of stuff in this game for your actual money. So it's not a lack of content. It's just a bigger price point for the plastic that you're going to pay. So you just need to be aware. Big boss pledge, card sleeves, wooden crates, plastic business markers. So an additional €40 for all that stuff. And then they add a whole bunch more stuff here. A few Kickstarter exclusive things, but mostly just going to be added. And, ooh, Peaky Blinders reference there. Nice. Although I'd worry a little bit about copyright. But, you know, anyway. And a little bit of everything. So a little bit of additional new stuff everywhere. All the big video places have videos out there. Dice Tower, Quackalope, Ludocrono. Again, there you go. Shipping in the EU is still an additional €22. In US is the same thing. So, it's not a cheap game. You're going to be paying, you know, probably $150 by the end of the time if you get this game, even at the non-deluxe pledge level. If you're going to be getting at the deluxe pledge level, you're probably going to be looking at $200 by the time this ends, because shipping costs, I'm going to guess, are going to go up because of the debacle that's going on around the world with shipping in general. So, you know, again, can you pledge $200 for this? Is it that interesting to you? And for 2,337 people right now, the answer is yes. If the answer is yes for you, well, or maybe, check it out. Scarface, 1920. Next up, we have Hollywood Racers. And this is a lofty one. I think this was one that was like canceled in the past. There's some history behind this. But anyway, it's about 20% of the way it's funded. And it's a crazy race game, like I mentioned last week, where you are moving these racers in this post-apocalyptic setting where, like, films and entertainment have been banned, but they're doing this crazy race inside of a movie studio somehow anyway. And you're literally going through these different parts of these crazy movie sets, including things like a T-Rex and just all sorts of other stuff. They're definitely taking parody to full account, if you can't tell by just these pictures right here at the top. And they talk about, okay, here you go. Here's the history. I will leave you guys to read that. That everything is unlocked, basically all you need to know. And if you were a previous backer, they all ask, I think, that you just fill out the form and maybe pay shipping. Yeah, so check it out. There you go. A little bit of the artwork, a little bit of everything. What's new in this director's cut? Metal minis. Wow, that's interesting. And game modes: classic, Attack of the Masterminds, basically two-player competitive mode there. 1+ players is a solo mode, but you can play it with a little more. Legacy Championship mode or Deathmatch. Basically, you get to set up this however you want, in whatever order you want, and race through it. And depending on which areas or tracks you want to do, you get your manager, you get your 2 drivers, and you go. €45, €35 extra gets you the metal minis, and €80 gets you everything. So there you go. A few videos again from a few big channels. Ludocrono, Dice Tower, heavy French videos. Yeah, everything you need to know right there. It's a hefty goal. It's a hefty goal. So good luck to them. Racing games, not my thing at all. But if you're interested, it looks like, I mean, yeah, there's not too many out there. So if you're looking for something racy-ish, that's a little crazy, a little chaotic, a little bit of probably take that. Check it out. That's Hollywood Racers. Next up, and I'm going to just touch on this one very briefly, even though this isn't like a true like tabletop-ish game that I usually cover, but I'll mention it. Arkham Archives, the complete collection. And this is sort of a book tabletop game. A notebook where you are going through using a deck of cards to traverse this game book with paragraphs of text trying to do whatever it says, sort of like a choose your own adventure on steroids with the Cthulhu theme, essentially. You're using it in, as they say, innovative ways to use the card deck and game materials. So they give you 4 separate stories: Jack, Archaeologist in Egypt, Unspeakable Horrors. You can play that demo. Kindred Unborn, Queen, Pop Radio Star, wakes up in a laboratory, experiments, Air of Whispers, Policeman who's driven insane and not able to tell what's real or not, and Anathema, a kid who's witnessed the apocalypse, basically. Again, there you go. Price points, price points, price points. 63 euros for all 4. There's an early bird. There's ebooks here with illustrated tokens for $100. Some stretch goals. I've never heard of this before. Clearly other people have, though. You know, it's got $27,000, more than most of the other projects I've talked about. Over a $9,000 funding goal, so already over 3 times its funding goal. But I thought I'd mention it in case some of you guys out there are bibliophiles and like this sort of thing. But if not, that's cool too. Arkham Archives. There you go. Did you like that bibliophile mention right there? Anyway, next up is the relaunch of Cyber Odyssey. And this was an interesting one when it came out from the Red Joker game studio. And I don't know the big difference. Let me see if I can pull it up here real quick. It looks very similar to the previous one. So same funding goal, actually. So what's different this time around, though? I mean, that's the big question in a game like this. Why is it funding this time? Is it just, you know, repeat and relaunch and see what happens the second time? So it looks like 80 euro pledges, 90 euro pledges for the Deluxe with the expansion. So what's new on this? Let's see how it's priced this time around. Same thing. Okay, 80 euros. There was an early bird. There was no Deluxe. And this is, I'm assuming, including the expansion, or did they get rid of that? Can't tell yet because it doesn't say there. So the price point is a little bit lower. Okay. Now, did they change anything else here? Are they going to actually talk about anything else they changed? I mean, this is a highly strategic, tactical, combat-ish game where you are traveling around this post-cyberpunk land, trying to investigate a string of murders and trying to reach the conclusion before any of the other players. Again, miniature-based, so again, that's where the price point is. And I think, if I remember, King of Average did a video on this one when it came out the first time around. Early adopter, yep. Add the expansions of your choice. So, not included there? I guess not. So, again, I don't know. I mean, this page is clearly different than it was last time. And it clearly gives a little bit more of a breakdown there, so I like that. How you're using the miniatures in tactical combat, the differences in the organizations. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I covered this last time. There is a rule book now. I don't know if there was a rule book last time. So that's a positive. Again, a whole bunch of videos down here at the bottom. Roll for crit. Yep, there's the King of Averages. So there you go. I mean, again, expensive price point. It's going to be 25 to 30 euros at the least. Because as I just mentioned in the previous one, that's bare minimum. That's estimated right now. A year from now, that could be, 5, 10 euros more without blinking an eye. So, again, if this appeals to you, and it's appealing to a lot of people, again, the miniature crowd is hitting this one hard. It's already funded, already doing well over what it was at last time. So, that is Cyber Odyssey. If you're interested, check it out from Red Joker. Next up is Usurp the King. And this has an interesting premise. And it's only about 25% of the way funded. So, we'll see what happens with this, because this is really interesting sort of social-ish game that can play potentially up to 6 people. And all the game is you get 10 cards, and you're trying to get your faction in the best position to usurp the king. And you play 6 of your 10 cards, resolve them in play, and whatever, shakes out, that's the one who gets the win. You can see here, the setup is very straightforward. Your setup around the turn cards, the number of court members will determine the number of players, and the image is for 5 people. This reminds me initially a little bit of Oriflamme in the sense that you all start out with the same 10 cards and you have the ability to play any of these 10 cards during your turn. But now the difference is that you have these different court members that I just mentioned down here. And you play these cards to these court members, but potentially these cards are not staying on those court members and their influence not necessarily on those particular people because they can be moved around, they can be adjusted, they can be changed. Your cards are going to obviously be influencing others in that sense in order to do that and move them where it may be more advantageous for you and less for them. And they say that there are 7 different victory conditions that you can actually achieve for this, and whoever backed the king or the new king is going to be the winner. $20 gets you it sooner than everybody else, and a bonus family as well that allows you to play up to 6. So that is the gist of it. That is Usurp the King. If you're interested in that style of game, definitely different, definitely interesting, definitely a little bit my style, so check it out. Now we have coalitions. This one also I mentioned briefly last week. Coalitions, 1 to 6 player, diplomatic maneuvering around Europe in the Napoleonic era, and it is almost 50% funded at $25,000. Right now, £42, £69, deluxe versus non-deluxe. Let's see what you get here. Okay, it's telling me what I'm getting. What is the game? Every backer gets a free expansion. Okay, great. Negotiation, conflict. Which side do you want to be on? The 6 major powers that I mentioned last week: France, Britain, Austria, Russia, Prussia, and Ottoman. So it's not really necessarily turns. It's not a rondel system, which I sort of thought initially, but it's sort of this system where everybody takes one of these 6 actions on their turn uniquely. Nobody takes the same turn on their action. So if you get your income, they say here, another one maybe does diplomatic realignment, another one scores, another one moves units, another one does battles. So all of that is going on in the same turn itself. Here you can sort of see the war wheel that I was just talking about, and it talks about the different actions that you're going to be doing during those turns and during that, war wheel decision, essentially. There is an alpha book of the rule book. Now, there is an alpha version of the rulebook. Again, not my style of game, war-ish game, not going to go into it, but I think you need to check it out. Clearly, this appeals as sort of an area control, war game-ish combination, super complex risk, if you will. Poor comparison, but I'm going to go with it because it's the first thing that came into my mind. And you get the deluxe version with the miniatures to stand out, and honestly, I kind of like the wood on this. I like the meeples, I like the differentiation there a little bit better. But deluxe on this side of things is definitely what sells, so I understand it too. Plenty of videos. Shipping is going to be shipping, okay. Deluxe shipping, great. And that's everything. I mean, check out the rulebook for this one, because this one, again, I think is kind of flying under the radar. And if you like this style of game, this might be something that we really haven't seen before. So if that's of interest, coalitions, check it out. So next up we have Nobel Run. It's a deck builder with a research science real world application theme. And so what are you getting? I mean, it is, I think, a €15 deck building game. It's already 3 times its funding goal, which is, again, relatively impressive. And it's in a couple different languages. And they even say that the project itself, the game itself, is going to be language independent. They have rule books out there, and you can sort of see what it's all about. So you're doing, a research team, managing a research team. If you're not familiar with some of these terms, look them up. Pre-docs, post-docs, seniors, articles, international projects, top scientists, adventures. You're trying to win the Nobel Prize, as evidenced by, the name of the game. 106 cards in the deck, and it breaks down all of the different cards that are going to be in there. And then it gives you a little bit of an overview of what you're actually doing. You start with the 7 same cards that you're going to be getting, and you're going to be expanding your research group, buying cards from the card pool, playing them to various areas of your CV, and then trying to build up these points in order to publish papers and win points. First 1 to 20 wins. A couple of videos on how to play here. Like I said, €15. Very simple, very straightforward. I mean, this is mostly the campaign page. They got a few stretch goals, a few more videos, and a couple other languages here. You can print and play. You can try it online. Looks like it's well put together. Not surprised it's funded. Like I said, rulebook right here gives you a quick rundown. Now, it's 20 pages, but don't be fooled by that, because, this is 1 page right here. There's another page, another page. These pages are very small. And that's a lot of illustration. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of illustration. It's a lot of examples and a lot of sort of tidbits about science and research thrown in as well alongside of it. So, I mean, it's really a fast read. So if you're interested in this at all, I mean, these did you knows, these examples, they're all very well put together. So it's not a very long rule book by any means. There is a little bit of negative points and negative interaction, I think, as well. So you just need to be aware of that. Like right here, you can see the negative card. Force your opponent to discard one of their cards chosen blindly by you. So there's a tiny bit of that. So if you don't like that aspect of things, that might be a little turn-offish. But yeah, that is the game in a nutshell. So if Nobel Run sounds good to you, check it out. Now we have Rochambeau, hand-to-hand combat. And this one is almost 40% of the way funded. And when I say hand-to-hand combat, they actually mean it. Now, this is a 2-player abstract game. And it's a very different concept than what I was thinking of when I was actually imagining what this game would be looking like. And so you have these little miniature plastic hands that are paper, scissor, and rock. And you are playing over this board that is, 6x6, reversible, and you are trying to advance and beat the other people's units in terms of paper, scissor, or rock. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be using cards that are either passive or immediate to enhance the abilities or the manipulation of said hands on the board in the first place. And you can have 2 passive cards that are active at any time that apply to every unit on the board. And then you have, like I said, and like aptly named, the immediate cards on there as well. So they talk about, okay, we want a small box to fit everything, small space for your shelf, and I love that. I love that. That's great practice right there. Foldable, reversible mat, great. And then it talks about all the cards, and these are your artifacts that you can be able to use. Again, the 10 passives, collecting a passive card grants you an effect. You can equip it, or you can not equip it if you don't want to, if you don't rather have a different one. They artifacts spawn on the map, and so you have to go get them. You equip them, you move, attack and counter, getting the artifacts, using the cards. I mean, it's really straightforward. Again, like I said, not what I was thinking when I pictured this, but I'm going to be interested to see where this one goes. Not a whole lot of hype with this one, so I think with a little bit more hype and a little bit more knowledge about it beforehand, I don't think this one should have any problem funding. This is one I could see if it didn't fund. I could see them relaunching, tweaking slightly, and easily funding in the future. But check it out, Rochambeau. Last up, also just launched, is Warehouse 13, the H.G. Wells expansion. Now, if you're not familiar with the sci-fi show that this is based on, they have the IP and they applied it to the base game, which funded a couple years ago. I actually have a copy in my collection. I'll be honest with you, I haven't played it. The rulebook, I was not, as a side note, very pleased with. The rulebook was just not as well put together. I mean, all of the concepts were there, but it was one of those rule books where you read it and it refers to something else that you haven't read about and you don't know about, and it's telling you how to do something else in the context of that. And then the suggestion I got from, I think, the forums or something like that was, well, go watch the video on how to play. And I was like, well, I shouldn't have to watch a video on how to play if the rulebook is good enough. So the concept of it is Warehouse 13, if you're not familiar with the sci-fi property, it's this group of individuals that is recruited by the secret government agency that runs the warehouse. It is this TARDIS-like building in the middle of like Montana. And you have these agents that are going out and capturing these artifacts from history that have magical powers that are somehow related to their historical events that they tied in on. And they use historical figures like H.G. Wells in reference to some of the experiences that they go through. It's very much an episodic, but with some overarching themes and concepts and just overarching story. So it's got a little bit of both those. And it kind of flew under the radar. I think it's a very good game. It's a very different mechanically style game. And this is the expansion to it that they had been sort of hinting at for a while, even when the first campaign ran. And what are you getting in this one? Now, again, it's a 3 to 5 player game. as a semi-co-op, but you can play 2 to 5 player fully co-op if you want. And that semi-co-op is always a little bit of, say what you will. And you are allowed to now play as the adversary, H.G. Wells, who is searching for this specific Minoan trident. If she gets the pieces, you lose. It also allows you to play as the previous antagonist, which was a former agent known as McPherson. And so you can play that on either side. You can also increase how the warehouse is going to be interacting and other characters like the character that is in the show called Mrs. Frederick. So there's a lot of information. There's a lot of content in this small expansion, I would say. And you can kind of see all of it right here. They run through it as well as additional tokens. And you can also get the base game. And as I know that this was not and is not widely available at retail. I'm not sure how easy this is to get. So this was one of those games that it ran into some IP issues when it was being brought through the channels, because I think Sci-Fi is that NBC? I think so, and they ran into some issues there. So again, you can look that up. But this Lena, another character in the show, was an exclusive, and they look like you can get it, but they're just charging you a little bit more. Token bags. Shipping is $0 if you're just getting the expansion. That's great. So what's the price point though for just the expansion? Because I'm looking at it now. $30. Okay, I'm gonna be tempted by that. This is another one of those that I'm gonna have to be able to play, and I'm gonna make myself play this to figure out whether or not I like it or whether or not it's gonna end up on the trade pile. Because I mean, say what you will about the rulebook, the people that have played it really do. And look, NBC, I was right. They really do enjoy it, and they really seem to like what it's doing and how you're having to go out and capture these artifacts, and you're using dice. They don't talk about it a lot in here, so I wish there was more explanation of what the game was and how the game actually played. Because otherwise, if you're new to this, if none of you guys watching this video have seen the base game, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. And so I have to imagine then a lot of these 384 are returning backers. But if you haven't checked this one out, I really recommend you check out the previous Kickstarter page. I'll throw that link in the comments as well as maybe just the Board Game Geek page for other reviews. So it's a highly under the radar, underrated game, but that is the expansion and the base game for Warehouse 13. So that's it. Did you figure out my shirt yet? Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for clicking. If you made it this far somehow in the wrap up, or you skipped over a bunch to get here, again, thank you. And again, if you haven't done that, that's the best thing you can do for me, because as I get a little bit more views, more clicks, more subscribers, hopefully some of these things, especially maybe not this week, but between now and the end of the month, folks, and especially in July, these are going to be like the 6 weeks, the last week and a half or so of June, and the 4 weeks of July, and the first week of August is going to be massive. Massive, massive, massive in terms of wallet busting potentially, no matter like where you sort of fall and what you sort of like, but especially on the miniature side of things, especially on the sort of dungeon-esh, crawl-esh games. So be aware. I'm warning you right now. You heard it here first. Not really, probably first. There's plenty of stuff out there. Anyway, Mechanical Beast. Maybe I can get that out this weekend. Spoilers. Don't think I'm gonna have another news video out on Monday. Just did Monday Morning Quarterback this last week. Maybe another review sometime out in the middle of next week. Maybe whatever else pops up. A little bit of details, a little bit of that. Little news flash short video. You like that? Anyway, I liked it. It was kind of nice not to sit here in front of the camera for a couple hours. But that's about all that's on my radar right now. I need to get some stuff played this weekend. It's either going to be Millennium War versus Wild Ascent. So those are the two things that really have to hit my table before the end of the month. And we'll kind of go from there. That's about all I got. So hopefully this was informative. Hopefully this was entertaining. Hopefully there wasn't too much that was interest, or maybe there was a lot more of interest. For me, it was a little bit lighter week, definitely, these last 2 weeks. But like I said, the next 2 following weeks are definitely, like the last 10 days or so of June are definitely going to be much heavier. So just, again, be aware. But, as always, have a great weekend. Play some games. Don't work. Well, unless you got to, like me. So, yeah. Stay classy. I'll see you around.